Young bird season, avoiding the pitfalls that cost championships. The young bird season represents both the greatest opportunity and the steepest learning curve in racing pigeon management. While seasoned fanciers understand that this period lays the foundation for future champions, many well-intentioned enthusiasts fall into predictable traps that can derail an entire season, or worse, permanently damage their promising youngsters. The peril of premature pushing. Enthusiasm often becomes the enemy of success when it comes to young bird development. The temptation to accelerate training schedules is understandable. After all, every fancier dreams of discovering the next super pigeon in their current crop. However, starting rigorous training too early creates a cascade of problems that can haunt you throughout the season. Young birds pushed beyond their developmental capacity often experience burnout before they've even had a chance to prove themselves. They're still developing muscles, respiratory systems, and mental fortitude simply cannot handle adult-level demands. What appears to be dedication to excellence often becomes a recipe for injury and disappointment. Equally destructive is the guesswork approach to nutrition during this critical phase. Overfeeding creates lethargic, overweight birds that struggle with even basic flight requirements, while underfeeding starves developing muscles and organs of essential nutrients. The key lies in understanding that young birds have dramatically different energy requirements than seasoned racers, and their needs change rapidly as they develop. Perhaps most dangerous is the tough love mentality that ignores early warning signs of stress or illness. Young birds showing signs of fatigue, loss of appetite, or behavioral changes aren't displaying weakness. They're communicating critical information about their condition. Hoping they'll simply power through these issues often transforms minor problems into major health crises that can spread throughout your entire young bird team. Overlooking the loft's labyrinth. The loft environment serves as the foundation for everything else you'll attempt with your young birds. Poor ventilation doesn't just create unpleasant conditions, it establishes the perfect breeding ground for respiratory diseases that can cripple performance for months. Young birds, with their still developing immune systems, are particularly vulnerable to environmental stressors that older birds might easily overcome. Feeding inconsistencies create a ripple effect of problems that extend far beyond simple nutrition. Young birds thrive on routine, and sudden changes in feeding schedules or diet composition trigger stress responses that impact everything from digestion to flight performance. Their developing systems require predictability to function optimally, and chaos in the loft translates directly to chaos in their performance. The assumption that young birds are naturally robust leads many fanciers to skip the routine health checks and preventative measures that could identify problems before they become disasters. Regular monitoring isn't paranoia, it's professional management that separates successful seasons from expensive learning experiences. Training traps and tribulations. Weather awareness becomes critical when dealing with young birds who haven't yet developed the experience and judgment of seasoned racers. Sending them out in challenging conditions that would merely test an older bird can completely disorient youngsters, leading to losses that devastate both your racing prospects and your confidence. The progressive training principle isn't just a nice idea, it's a biological necessity. Young birds' homing instincts develop gradually, and overwhelming them with distance increases that exceed their current capabilities doesn't accelerate their development. It breaks down their confidence and can create lasting navigation problems. Establishing consistent feeding-to-toss routines helps young birds develop the internal timing mechanisms they'll rely on throughout their racing careers. Inconsistency in this area confuses their natural rhythms and can leave them unprepared when they need their energy reserves most. Race day recklessness. The excitement of race day often leads to counterproductive interventions. Over-medicating or excessive supplementation disrupts the natural equilibrium you've worked all season to establish. Young birds' systems are particularly sensitive to chemical disruptions, and race day interventions often create more problems than they solve. The handling and crating process reveals much about a fancier's true understanding of their birds. Creating chaotic environments or rough handling in the hours before crating adds unnecessary stress to birds that are already dealing with the natural tension of competition. Calm, confident handling reassures young birds and helps them maintain the mental state necessary for peak performance. Weather and race point conditions require different consideration when dealing with young birds versus experienced racers. What might be merely challenging for a seasoned bird can be overwhelming for a youngster, and ignoring forecasts or race conditions when making the decision to send young birds often results in disappointing returns and damaged confidence. Post-race pitfalls. The moments immediately following a bird's return are critical for both immediate recovery and future performance. Neglecting proper rehydration and recovery nutrition doesn't just impact the current race, it affects their ability to recover for subsequent competitions and can cause cumulative damage that shows up later in the season. The post-race inspection period offers invaluable information about your bird's condition and the effectiveness of your management program. Failing to thoroughly check returning birds means missing early signs of injuries, parasites, or exhaustion that could impact their future racing ability or spread problems to other birds in your team. Perhaps most importantly, learning to interpret race results with perspective rather than emotion separates developing fanciers from those who achieve long-term success. One poor race result doesn't invalidate your entire program, and making impulsive changes based on single disappointing performances often creates more problems than the original issue. Building champions through patience. The young bird season ultimately teaches us that champions are built through consistent, thoughtful management rather than dramatic interventions or shortcuts. The birds that consistently perform at the highest levels come from lofts where every decision is made with their long-term development in mind, where problems are identified and addressed early, and where the excitement of competition never overrides the fundamentals of good husbandry. Success in the young bird season isn't measured only by immediate race results. It's measured by the foundation you build for future championships and the lessons you learn that will benefit every bird in your loft for years to come.
Young bird season. Avoiding the pitfalls that sabotage success. The young bird season represents both the greatest opportunity and the most treacherous period in a racing pigeon fancier's calendar. It's during these crucial months that tomorrow's champions are forged or broken. While experienced fanciers know that success lies in patience, consistency, and careful observation, even seasoned competitors can fall into traps that derail an entire season's potential. Understanding these common pitfalls isn't just about avoiding mistakes. It's about recognizing that young birds require a fundamentally different approach than their mature counterparts. Their developing bodies, emerging instincts, and forming habits demand a delicate balance of challenge and protection that many fanciers struggle to maintain. The peril of premature pushing. The enthusiasm to see young birds perform often becomes their greatest enemy. Starting rigorous training too early may seem like gaining an advantage, but it frequently leads to burnout and injury before the season truly begins. Young birds pushed beyond their developmental capacity often show initial promise, only to fade dramatically when consistency matters most. Nutrition presents another minefield during this critical period. Overfeeding based on adult bird requirements can overwhelm developing digestive systems, while underfeeding stunts growth and flight stamina. The energy needs of young birds fluctuate dramatically as they develop, requiring constant adjustment and careful observation rather than rigid adherence to standard formulas. Perhaps most damaging is the tendency to ignore early warning signs, hoping young birds will power through initial stress or illness. This optimistic approach often transforms minor issues into widespread problems that can devastate an entire team's potential. Overlooking the loft's foundation. The environment young birds develop in shapes their entire racing career, yet loft management during the young bird season often receives inadequate attention. Poor ventilation and hygiene create perfect conditions for respiratory problems that can plague birds for life. The developing respiratory systems of young birds are particularly vulnerable, making environmental control absolutely critical. Feeding schedules and dietary consistency take on heightened importance during this period. Sudden changes or inconsistent timing can cause digestive upset and stress that impacts not just immediate performance but long-term development. Young birds thrive on a routine, and disruptions to their feeding patterns can create anxiety that affects their willingness to train and race. The assumption that young birds are naturally robust often leads to neglected health checks and postponed preventative measures. In reality, developing birds require more frequent monitoring, not less, as their immune systems strengthen and their bodies adapt to the demands of racing. Training missteps that cost seasons. Weather conditions that might challenge experienced birds can completely overwhelm young ones. Sending birds out in adverse conditions for training tosses risks not just immediate losses, but can create lasting fear and hesitation that affects their racing confidence for years to come. Progressive training represents one of the most critical aspects of young bird development, yet it's frequently mishandled. The temptation to accelerate training by jumping from short distances to long ones often overwhelms their undeveloped homing instincts. Young birds need time to build both physical strength and navigational confidence through carefully graduated distances. Establishing consistent routines becomes particularly important during training. The feeding to toss rhythm helps young birds develop internal timing that will serve them throughout their racing careers. Inconsistency in these patterns can confuse their energy management and create uncertainty about what's expected of them. Race day disasters. The excitement of race day often leads to overcorrection and intervention that disrupts young birds' natural balance. Over-medicating or excessive supplementation can upset their developing systems and create adverse effects that overshadow any intended benefits. Young birds often perform best when their routine remains as normal as possible. Pre-race handling and environmental management become crucial factors in young bird performance. Creating chaotic conditions or rough handling before crating can stress birds at the exact moment they need to be calm and focused. Young birds are particularly sensitive to environmental stress and may carry this anxiety into their race performance. Weather awareness takes on special significance when dealing with young birds. Weather conditions that experienced birds can handle may be completely inappropriate for developing racers. Ignoring weather forecasts or race point conditions can send young birds into situations they're simply not prepared for. Post-race recovery oversights. The period immediately following a race is as critical as the race itself for young bird development. Neglecting immediate rehydration and recovery nutrition can lead to prolonged fatigue and muscle damage that affects subsequent training and racing. Young birds often need more recovery time than their adult counterparts, despite appearing more resilient. Thorough post-race inspection becomes essential for catching problems early. Young birds may not show obvious signs of injury or exhaustion, making careful examination crucial for preventing minor issues from becoming major problems. Parasites, small injuries, or signs of stress can significantly impact future performance if left unaddressed. The emotional response to race results often create the most damaging post-race mistakes. Overanalyzing a single poor performance can lead to impulsive changes in feeding or training that disrupt carefully established routines. Young birds need consistency and patience to develop properly. and knee-jerk reactions to individual races often do more harm than good. Building success through patience. The young bird season ultimately rewards those who understand that development cannot be rushed. Each mistake avoided is an investment in the future. Each patient decision a building block toward long-term success. The birds that dominate racing for years to come are often those that were given time to develop properly during their first season, building confidence and strength through carefully managed progression rather than premature pressure. Success in the young bird season isn't measured solely by immediate results, but by the foundation being laid for years of competitive racing. The fanciers who resist the urge to push too hard, who maintain consistency in the face of setbacks, and who prioritize long-term development over short-term gains are the ones whose young birds often surprise everyone by becoming the champions of tomorrow.
Consistently achieve top 5 placements in my club. My expertise extends to the art of selecting excellent breeders, including evaluating pigeons based on their assigned characteristics. I firmly believe that true champions can only be bred from top-quality stock, and I can guide you in identifying and acquiring such pigeons. I understand that many pigeons for sale are advertised based on their lineage or pedigree, but I emphasize the importance of assessing the bird itself rather than relying solely on paperwork. As part of my offer, I invite you to share photos of your pigeons, including their eye sign and wing characteristics. I'll provide you with free advice on racing and breeding based on my extensive experience and knowledge. Additionally, I will share auction links to high-quality breeding birds that have the potential to produce winners in your loft. Here's what you can expect to receive from me. A comprehensive Word document containing valuable insights and strategies for successful pigeon racing, including specific racing methods for both old and young birds, as well as general advice. Private YouTube videos sent to your email, covering various aspects of pigeon racing, from breeding to race preparation. Detailed recommendations on supplements and additives to add to your pigeon's drinking water, with scientific evidence supporting their effectiveness. Similar products are used by professional athletes and racehorses to enhance performance. Assurance that your pigeons will race home faster, provided that you have quality birds to begin with.